good day.
Hello, hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, good evening. Can everyone hear us?
I can hear you
Good evening to you as well. Hello, good friends, Mr. Isaiah Little.
in the flesh. Well, virtually.
Virtually, yes, definitely virtually. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. And we actually kicking off, we're so excited to kick off Hemp Fest
Hmm.
2022. This is our first event where we're going to talk about getting into the cannabis industry. And Mr. Isaiah Little, aka Zay, is going to be our host for this evening. When we talk about introducing, what all I can say is the first thing when I met Zay, I was like, he has to be one of the flyest dudes in Newark when I first met him, and we have just built our relationship from there.
That's a great way
And
to kick off the combo. Thanks.
Isaiah is a community development and marketing strategist, and he's the creative director and founder of Gallery Retail, a pro social
Take your time. You still there?
creative agency and New Work First Fridays, and an independent arts and cultural platform and festivals. I'm still here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Hey, how's it going? All right, awesome, Zay. Well, I'll let you take over from here, and then actually, if you would do the pleasure of introducing our first guest, Governor McGreevy.
Yes. I'm Zay. What was I going to say? In addition to that, I would just say that I am definitely, a person. One, I'm a Norker, so longtime resident of the greater Newark area. And while I would say this conversation, really excited to be a part of as a person, from a family, very familiar with folks who have been, negatively impacted. One by the war on drugs, and I guess also very eager to see the positive, impacts of the potentials of correcting, so many of the, I guess you can say inappropriate practices when it comes to policing, criminal justice, etc. I am a patient. I am a unofficial advocate, and as a marketing and creative entrepreneur, I definitely foresee consulting cannabis entrepreneurs, such as the ones that we will feature, um, as well as an aspiring cannabis entrepreneur myself. So yes, I'm very excited to actually sort of like jump into our first topic with our esteemed guest, Governor Jim McGreevy. Thank you for joining us. You just popped up there. So I know you have a storied history, experience in this particular area. So while I can talk about New Jersey entry, the various organizations that you have participated in, can you very, very shortly just give a spiel on uh, the organization you work with now when it comes to, cannabis expungement, et cetera?
Sure, Zay. Thank you so much, and thank you to you and Rashad. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today in Brick City, and I'm stating the obvious, but unfortunately, in this country, and New Jersey is perhaps no different, that persons that have been disproportionately impacted in terms of criminal justice systems, both in terms of probably in terms of the criminal justice system, but also in terms of the dangers of, say, for example, crack cocaine, the whole history, the correlation between CDS, drugs, and communities of color, that there's been a long and sad storied history. So that, understanding that the possibilities of what it means to be in terms of cannabis and this new industry is obviously is an opportunity to provide some redress, if you will, is that an opportunity to bring some young persons from the community into the economic cycle so that they have a potential to share in what will be one of the largest economic markets in the nation. And so the first thing that we have to see is that, this whole sad trajectory, if you will, um, between the war on drugs and the impacts going back to literally probably President Nixon's proclamation to the war on drugs, um, and then the then Attorney General's decision, and the interrelationship between the war on drugs and persons of color, and the great work that Michelle Alexander did called the New Jim Crow, um, and so that you see this interrelationship between CDS, controlled dangerous substance, and the community and incarceration. You see us begin to redress a lot of that, thanks to Michelle Alexander, thanks to Brian Stevenson, thanks to so many people in the community. But in addition to the criminal justice, I think it's what you said, Zay, and people like everybody from Mayor Ras Baraka to Al Sharpton, is that we have to provide opportunities in for economic revitalization. And so that has itself a broad swath, not only in terms of growing, not only in terms of selling, not only in terms of marketing, but in terms of consulting. And so
Pardon me, Governor Murphy. If you can hear me, I can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you're muted or. Mm. Oh, Isaiah's back. Um, oh, we got musical chairs. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Can you all hear me? Okay, so I can't hear you all. Oh,
Yes. Can you hear
there we
me?
go. I can hear somebody.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hi.
Yep, there we go. Okay,
but part of
there
it
we.
is that right now is the reality is we've got 14,000 court involved persons registered in New Jersey reentry. Most of the people that I have the privilege of working for, frankly, are not wrapped up in CDS. But for those individuals that did have CDS crimes, obviously expungement offers a new beginning. I don't know if Zay, you want me to start talking about the expungement bill now, or do you want to talk about cannabis? But
No, let me jump in for
I
two
want to be
seconds.
respectful for your
No, no, no.
questions.
I just want to, pivot real quick. I'm gonna add one
I'm
short
I'm
answer.
sorry, I can't hear Zay. So
Oh, let me take this headphones off. Let's see if that works. Can you hear me? Nope, still can't hear.
I can. Says muted. Sounds great. My microphone is on.
Governor Murphy, can you hear me? Nope.
Should I leave and come back, Zay? Shake your head up and down.
Stay. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you at all.
Oh man.
Should I leave and come back?
If you can, sure.
All right, I'll try to do that right now. I'm sorry. See, now you're gonna read. Now you know why Lacey Ann needs to be here.
It's
All
technology.
right, thank you. Without her, it's just like Thank you. I'll leave and come right back. Thanks, my friend.
I should have had my DJ music set up so I can just mix in a little elevator music.
Yep, just kick it right to your playlist.
Exactly. I'll do better next time. It's crucial for the exchange. I could hear him, then he couldn't hear me, so we'll get there. Give him a moment to jump back on. Thank you all for your patience. Pleasure. At least a few of you I haven't gotten a chance to meet before, so definitely looking forward to getting to know you all a little bit better, and then continuing to learn more, especially from you all. And if he doesn't join in a second or two, we can jump right in.
Are all of you guys in New Jersey or Newark?
Yes, I'm in Jersey and in Newark. Yes.
Jersey.
Yes, I'm in Newark as well.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Hey, Charm City. So I mean, until the governor joins us, maybe we can just start with introducing ourselves, and then once he's able to join, because I know he has a hard stop or a short amount of time with us. Lorenzo McNulty, licensed grower and manufacturer. Can you start with just like a 30-second, 45-second introduction of yourself?
Sure. Background is engineering in the Marines. I went into chemistry, studied a little bit of marketing at the University of Columbia. Needed something to deal with the lovely parting gift of PTSD after my last tour in Afghanistan. Found out about this thing called hemp because I had only heard about the other side, had not heard about the CBD side, got in it. Used those tools to start a hydroponic garden. So we grow 100% hydroponic for medical grade.
All right. Thank you. And Ashley Wilson, cannabis influencer and brand manager for Cannabis Company.
Yeah, so I'm the brand manager at Plantivia Wellness. I also have my own thing going with Strange Wonderful, where I work with different cannabis brands as a brand ambassador. So that is what I'm bringing.
Thank you. Pleasure. Elena or Alana, the muse. Elena, I'm gonna get it right. So people meet Isaiah, they say Ike as soon as they meet me. I want to get it right. Elena, the muse Dorsey, a creative producer, illustrator, and owner of an art and content studio.
Yeah, I lost my goddamn mind in 2018 and started with CBD. Then once I got my medical card in Maryland, became a daily consumer until I moved in with a bunch of psychos and had to start healing all over again, times infinity. And I started out in the industry writing blog posts and in content marketing in August 2018, but I've been an illustrator most of my life. So decided to pivot and merge content marketing with illustration and creative direction.
Hey, sorry, Zay, could you let the governor in? He said he's backstage.
How you doing? Welcome, Governor.
Hey, thanks. I got to say thank you to the Marine.
No worries. On my side, I can't see.
My dad was a Marine Corps drill instructor.
Oh,
got you. What's the no man left behind, or is that the Army?
No. That's the Corps.
You see, I didn't serve a day.
Exactly, and I should know that he. And anyway, I can talk to you about the Marine Corps, the Mumford Marines, and all great stuff about the Corps. But thank you.
No worries. So real quick, we'll just pick right up with you, Governor. The question I was going to ask right before we lost you was, before we pivot, from how cannabis can be used to help the social equity piece of this puzzle, right? Very, very quickly, because I know you have a short amount of time. I'm going to squeeze in the other questions. Are you optimistic about that?
Well, Zay, that's a great question. I mean, part of it is getting through the license procedure. And so we just wanted to say to everybody on this call, mean, you can get points, if you will, in the application process for involvement with court-involved persons. So we have a pretty standard agreement. Obviously, we're in the business of promoting the interests of those court-involved persons and trying to redress some of the historic discriminatory patterns of the system. And so if anybody's interested, we just ask you to reach out to New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Our general counsel is Rahat Chada, and you can get her at RCHATHA at NJ Reentry. That's NJREENTRY.org. If you're interested in partnering with us, and we think that this was a positive development in terms of the legislation, is to provide for an opportunity for court-involved persons to become part of the process. I mean, bluntly, we don't suspect that court-involved persons, at least on the short term, are going to be major owner-operators of major sites. I mean, at some point in time, I think that is possible. But what we want to do is to work with, we're working with different universities right now to develop a cannabis curriculum. We'd like to have our program participants, the people we're privileged to work for, have the best level of training, the best level of subject matter proficiency. So whatever it is, whether they're tending to buds, whether they're growing, whether they're marketing, that they're the best skills. We're looking at Stockton University. I've worked with my dear friend Ryan Haygood. We're trying to make sure that we teach people. So this is a profession, right? And so we just recently had an expungement seminar. We've had one at Newark at 936 Bergen Street or Newark Reentry Center. We just had one in Hudson County. But what we see is for all of these individuals, they want a trained, proficient workforce. And that's what we want to do. I would just respectfully argue there are still high barriers for people that are court involved who want to get into the business. I think those, I don't want to say this gingerly, but I think a lot of preconceived notions about court involved persons exist across all communities, across all economic strata, which bluntly can be incredibly frustrating to me. That being said, I think this is a unique opportunity. And it's just a blessing. So it's in our interest to frankly, to drive and to advocate as aggressively as possible that the communities that have been disproportionately impacted would provide opportunities of access. And I pray in turn that they provide access to the people that I'm privileged to work for every day of my life. And so that's why we see this as being a great economic incentive. Bluntly, there are historic questions of access to capital, historic questions of access to insurance that are going to play a role in this. But I think Governor Murphy and the commission has been very sensitive to have a balance. So they can be in our small way. We want as many folks that are court involved working, and we want as many folks, God willing, from the community to have licenses, whether across the board or in the segmented industries, who hopefully in turn will be looking to hire court-involved persons. So we see this as a win-win, but this initial footprint is going to be very important.
I think that's fantastic. And while I know we lost you for a moment, basically answered part of my last question. So the second part of my last question for you, Governor, is because you basically touched on some thoughts on some of your thoughts on
Hey, can I
expungement.
just talk about expungement just for a second? Because I don't think
you
had asked about that.
Let me give you my full question, because then I think that'll be perfect. What are your thoughts about expungements? And then should those with prior records be allowed to participate in the cannabis industry? My last question.
Like the last question is really for me. Yes. I mean, so that's the last question is like that for me for everything, almost everything in America. I mean, if we can't talk about second chances in a meaningful way, but say second chances, but. So yeah, I'm sorry, Zay. Yeah, for me, that's just like, that's no brainer. Like right. I'm going to walk the walk or we're not. So expungements are really good. New Jersey Reentry works with Volunteer Lawyers for Justice Legal Services. I'd like to give out a shout out to Senator Sandra Bolden Cunningham, who is like phenomenal, was a major driver for this with Senator Sweeney, Governor Murphy, Shavonda Sumter, who's the chair of the Black Caucus, and Senator Ron Rice. These folks all moved expungement, and I could get into the weeds on it, but let me just suffice to say that if anybody's interested in an expungement, in having expungement, I just asked you to enroll. You can go to our website, www.njreentry. That's NJREENTRY.org. You can walk into our office at 936 Bergen. We're in Patterson, we're in Newark, we're in Jersey City, we're in Hackensack, we're in Elizabeth, we're in New Brunswick, we're in Neptune, we're in Tom's River, and you enroll in our program. You have to complete the orientation program, and then we move you through to expungement. The reason why we do it that way, Zay, is sure that that we clean up any past fines. We make sure that we clean up any outstanding legal issues. It's so important because if you have anything outstanding in terms of the criminal justice system, expungement won't proceed. So we believe in making sure we address everything outstanding so you can move forward with the expungement process. So if anybody's sincerely interested, and you please come to New Jersey Reentry. And again, look at our website, www.njreentry.org. I'll give you the list of all our sites, and it'll give you our phone numbers. We just asked you to physically come in, become a part of our orientation process. Let us help you clean up the legal wreckage, and then look to make sure we connect you to whether it's general assistance, whether it's housing, whether it's Medicaid. And then we also have to make sure that you have an ID. Motor vehicle ID, so you have benefits to all these programs, but then also that you can move forward in expungement. You need that ID. You need to say that Zay is Zay. You need to make sure that we are who we say we are for the purposes of expungement. Sorry, Zay.
No, thank you for that. And I mean, thank you for your time again. I know we had you for a short time, not a long time, but I think that was a lot packed in.
Yeah, and so like it's expungement, like I'm just going to really emphasize it's expungement, and it's just allowing our guys and gals into the process. And we've got to get real about this, right? Because if we're going to say to people, if we're going to say that a mistake that you made, I was just on the phone with my dear friend Calvin Bass. He was involved in a felony murder, drove the car when 14 years of age, got out after over 30 years behind the wall. If we're going to be real about this, whether it's a young man making a bad decision at 14 or somebody making a decision at 25 or at 36, we have to believe in the possibilities of second chances. So that we need meaningful work. And so I appreciate this opportunity, expungements, and we linking people to the cannabis. And for cannabis industry, if you're interested, please reach out to our general counsel or through Zay to me, and we'd like to develop a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you once again. I'm sure we're going to be able to collect a lot of the jewels, not even just from the first 20 minutes, but from the rest of our conversation, and be able to compile that for those that are interested, along with this video, I'm sure. So once again, Governor, thank you for your time, and I look forward to running into you at PJ's.
All right. Thanks so much, Zay.
All right.
Take care. Godspeed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, you all for your patience, and we're going to continue. Jump right back in. Christine Carr, creator and owner of a beauty products beauty products line that has a hemp line. I kind of butchered that, but Christine, please get it right.
Hi, my name is Christine Carr, and my brand is Nicole Avoni. I include these 5 products in the line that have hemp oil. And I did not necessarily start out wanting to be in the cannabis business, but as someone who's really into skincare, I know the benefits of hemp oil on the skin for calming, for soothing. So I wanted to incorporate that into my line, and so I did. I've met up with some of the just minor obstacles so far with including it and advertising online. An unintended consequence, but I'm looking forward to learning more about being in the hemp business. I didn't intend to, but here I am, and I'm kind of excited about it.
Thank you, thank you. And last but finally not least, Shay Douglas, creator and owner of a company that features curated tinctures.
Hey, everybody. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm Shay Douglas, and I'm co-owner and co-founder of Sweet Green Label with my partner, Chris Page. So we're actually located in Newark, but we mostly do things. It's an e-commerce business, so you can go to sweetgreenlabel.com, and that's SUITE. So even though we are very sweet. But we were introduced to, well, I personally was introduced to it first in about 2019. And I suffer with an autoimmune disease that affects my skin. And someone introduced me to CBD, and it worked for me. And ever since then, I was like, you know what, maybe we might want to, look into this. And we created the Sweet Green Label premium CBD line, and we're in the cannabis industry. So it's been a great time here. Kind of learning all these different things. So I'm just happy to be a part of this growing industry, and we get an opportunity to build it from the ground up, which is perfect in my eyes. So, but thanks for me. Yeah.
All right, all right. I don't know about y'all, but today I was excited all day to get this conversation. So I got my green on. You can't see, but I got green pants on. I got my no business headphones on. So Ashley, if I do so, if I must, can I put you on the spot for half a second,
Yeah.
just to give a one sentence on Plantivia, and then we can jump right into the nitty gritties.
Okay. So you mean like what is Plantivia?
Yeah, because I don't think while we've been live, we've actually covered that. So I want to make sure we provide space for that in the very beginning. Then we can jump into it. And I'm sure we'll give a recap on what folks can expect for the rest of the Hemp Fest at the end.
Okay. Well, Plantivia Wellness is a wellness shop. We specialize in CBD and Delta 8. We also have events. We have information sessions. You're able to, if you're interested in getting your medical marijuana card in New Jersey, you can come to us. Even if you're in another state, we can also provide you with access to discounts so that you can get that card in your state. And we also are an event space where you can come. You can, as Zay just mentioned, we have a week full of events, including, I know we have a paint and puff. We have some yoga sessions. And we have a brunch. We also have game night coming up on 420. So we could talk more about that at the end. But I think that pretty much is a whole view of what Plantivia Wellness is.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. So just jump right in. Some questions I might look to particular parts of the screen. And then if you just feel so inclined, like, let me get this off my chest. It's been a minute. Just jump right in. I will try to get through this, in a decent fashion, just because there's so many questions, there's so many different topics, and then we all have different specialties. So if I pivot, if I move, just try to keep up. So first, what do you feel the government can do to help people of color gain access to cannabis or the cannabis industry right off the bat? Anyone in particular? Somebody giggle. You go first.
Well, I giggled because I was having a conversation with someone about how they have various zones where you can grow marijuana. And within some of those places, one place in particular in Newark where there's now a farm, Aero Farms, which I love Aero Farms. I constantly buying. They're in the zone where you can grow. And since all of the marijuana has to be grown in New Jersey, we talk about getting people access, but realistically, if it's in these zones already, predetermined zones, and we know that people of color tend to not have access to all that capital, you're saying You have the right to be a part of this industry. We have these zones. These zones are completely sold out. Like you say it, but there is no, it's very unrealistic that people of color who are already disenfranchised are going to have access to get into those spaces. Am I making sense? Am I being clear? It's not something that I thought about previously, but we just had the conversation. I'm like, well, you say it, but it's not realistic for us to get access to the capital if everything is so predetermined and people already own these spaces. What are the odds that they're going to just come up off those lots so that people of color can have access?
Yeah.
I'm just
Access. I love that one.
And I just to piggyback off of that, I think that it's a fear because we have been shut out from so many different industries, such as like alcohol when the prohibition. I mean, I wasn't alive then, but just imagine being around in those times before alcohol prohibition, how you were really basically locked out of things. And I think that people of color been so disenfranchised that we can't even see our faces there, right?
Hmm.
So I think New Jersey is doing a really good job of promoting what the new face of the cannabis industry looks like.
Okay.
And New Jersey's really setting a really good blueprint for the entire country to make it go federally legal. So if you look downtown Newark, there's actual billboards from the commission with a person of color on the billboard saying you can get into the cannabis industry. It's like this is yours. So, but I think from a conscious standpoint, I think the fear from people of color needs to be taken out. That's one of the first steps. I mean, I think the government's doing all that they can, but I think the grassroots efforts, as far as like getting that fear out of our minds, needs to happen. And I think Panacea is doing a really good job because they're the face of in downtown Newark, and you guys are inviting people of color and different groups to see this can be you too. So I think it takes that. So
Okay. So I'm hearing fear. I'm hearing access. I'm hearing visibility of representation. Lorenzo, you have something to add?
You know, you guys just gave so much good information. I kind of forgot what the question actually was, but as far as what the government could be doing, I think optimally, we want the government out of it, right? We want to be able to, do what we do without those predetermined bars and barriers that are already there. It's like what we're asking is, can we layer over this pre-existing, however many 100-year-old society? Can we layer this thing over these unaddressed issues that we got that are still systemic, right? When you speak of the word systemic, it is in the system. It is the actual wiring, the actual fiber of that. So I think we have to address that first. And the government has an opportunity to all of those points, right? Is the representation. It matters to get those billboards, but let's get some legislation in there that actually says here's how we're going to operate. A lot of times we're getting symbolism and we're getting a lot of those things, and we're feeling comfortable because someone gave us a billboard. No offense, because I do believe in representation matters, and I know how disenfranchisement works, but we can't get satisfied there. It's the billboard and it's Plantivia, right? And it's hiring those people. What the governor was talking about, right? Unfortunately, people like us tend to hire those people like us who have that tendency to be impacted by more of the stuff that we're talking about. So yeah, that's my 2 pennies.
And I'll actually just jump on this real quick, but I will actually add to this that knowledge is power. So I feel like that educational piece is definitely needed. Someone in the chat, I think Dwayne said we need capital and grants for funding. And I think even not just having the grants and the funding, because it might already be there, but also just making that knowledge aware, making everyone aware of that those things exist. And I think this, for example, this panel is a great start because a lot of people don't know how to get into the different rooms that they're trying to get into, or how it's possible to actually meet people that are doing these things, and representation is here. It starts with the room that you're in, and it starts with the people that you speak to. So I think definitely making it available to people so that they can find that information and find out how they can get involved is a big part.
I'm a snap and I'm looking for the reactions, button like Zoom. Sorry, StreamYard, don't kick us off. But yeah, I think I'm definitely, echoing what Ashley was saying for sure. I think not only in the cannabis space, but in a many number of spaces, right? For myself, it comes down to information as well as accountability. Because the awesome policies and the things that were suggested earlier can be in place, but I think even as often as the laws being there is whether it be the community or some legal apparatus to kind of uphold those laws is important. I think New Jersey, Newark, Greater Newark area has a lot to benefit from being last, 20x years after some other cities or communities to roll this out. So we don't have to, do the worst practices. We can take the best of the different, communities that have been doing this so that we really get it right. Before I pivot, anyone else had anything to add on that piece?
I mean, if we're talking, I was mainly thinking federal government. My thing is mainly the Safe Banking Act and finally passing that so that I don't have to lose access to card payments and potentially not being able to use PayPal. That is a major issue with a multi-billion-dollar industry where we're not supposed to have access to using money, which is utterly ridiculous.
And just so that everyone that's on the call, can you explain what that is? Because I have an idea, and I've seen the sketchiness of like how you process funds at the end of the day, and I think that that's what you're referring to.
So I don't know all the ins and outs of the Safe
We can
Banking
paraphrase. This is a safe space.
But the Safe Banking Act, I think it's been processed through Congress multiple times. I think last year it made it through the House, got to the Senate, and they struck it down again. So there are other aspects to it, but a major barrier in the cannabis and the hemp industry, even though the hemp was legalized, is that banks don't want anything to do with a federally illegal plant. Neither do card processors. For example, I run an art and content studio. I do marketing. I don't do plant touching. I tried to set up with Stripe, and I go against their guideline. So I can't use Stripe to get payments. I can't use my invoicing site, Wave app, to get card payments from my clients. And hopefully PayPal doesn't they haven't picked up on yet what I'm doing, but it's still, even if you're not a plant touching business, because it's federally illegal and potentially there are still processors and banks and companies that don't even want anything to do with hemp, it makes it hard to bring money in. And another fundamental issue that I guess was definitely an issue years ago when it comes to capital and whatnot is you can't write certain things off on your taxes if you have a cannabis, potentially hemp business. And then you can't get access to, again, with the banks, the loans, the capital that you even need to even run like a major event. A lot of the things have to be done out of pocket. So I did see somebody post something about crypto. So I have been hearing some crossover with the crypto space in cannabis because it's decentralized. But the main issue as far as wanting the government involved, the federal government involved, is being able to make money. And I guess inevitably they got to get their cut.
Got you. So I know one, we got a bunch of questions and we got a bunch of sections. So I think that definitely echoes, I guess, what I was saying. And like the government should set the environment and then back away, like Lorenzo was saying. So get out the way, government. And when it comes to barriers and entry, and I think this would be a perfect time to include that crypto question. What was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome to enter in the cannabis industry?
I could say for us, what Ashley kind of said earlier was, knowledge is key, and this is such a complex, industry. I mean, if we talk about the plant itself, there's over 200 compounds in the plant, and a person like me I want to learn them all, but it's impossible. But um, having this, and then the biggest obstacle was having to navigate this. And in 2019, when you looked for RFA on the government website, first of all, there was no commission. So when we went on there, it was like a jungle trying to like weed through all this stuff. And then we're going to professionals that have actually gone through it. They're like, yeah, if you give me $250,000, I'll give you a license. Yeah, right. Okay. So it was fear. It was really scary. But it was just like navigating like this. There was no straight line. And it was very scary. So I think that was learning all this stuff, knowing where to go, knowing where not to go. For us, those were the biggest obstacles for us, entering in it. And we're on the CBD part of it right now. I mean, they just announced the RFA for retail dispensaries, which, that's in the process right now. They just, announced it, March 15th, it just came out. So, but since 2019, and that's when we, started our company, it's been a every step. It's been like it's been a lot. It's a lot of moving pieces. So I think that's the biggest thing, was just navigating this uncharted territory. So.
Okay. And I guess relevant to that and the uncharted territories, and I guess what I started with is, Lorenzo, how do you and your team, how did you all overcome financing your cannabis business? Did you face any setbacks?
I'm sorry, you broke up on that last part.
No, I said, did you face any setbacks with trying to finance your company?
Oh,
we got time.
Okay, thank you. It goes back to what you guys said, the education part. We didn't understand the business aspect of it as well as we thought we did, right? One instance, we were doing business out in Oregon, and at the end of this deal, we were less $50,000, right? Basic transaction. They've got what we are coming to get. You give me that. I paid for transportation. It should go that way, right? But a lot of people were not verifying funds. If we're doing transactions of that scale, it's different than me selling you a dime bag or a pound or something like that. We're doing transactions at that scale. So there's a lot of proofing that needs to go. And that the lack of education around what sorts of questions we need to be asking to verify those funds. I keep using that phrase, but to verify, that we're doing business the right way, because we know we're in an unregulated industry. We can't call the cops. They're going to do their hands with a case that's already solved itself, right? But as far as education goes, we had to learn how to do the business, right? So we learned how to build the business for our consumer and have our consumer contribute to our business, so that we in turn give them the what's in it for them, which is our product or our event or whatever it is of value that we could do. The other thing that we did to get around it was go out and deliberately create partnerships, right? One of the challenges that us, and we've been doing this for a few years now, and so I say this anecdotally, but I say this over the span of 5 years, right? We don't know how to get money together, right? We don't know how the business relationship is supposed to work. We don't know how the split, we don't know what the profits truly are, because we're counting operating, like all of those business things, that we got taught in high school accounting or those kind of things. Like, they are incredibly valuable, right? And if you can write them out, if you can articulate them before you go into this deal or at the beginning of this deal, that'll save you a lot of money in the long run, right? But I think the biggest thing that helped us get capital we didn't have was just, we met Plantivia. We met all of these other experts, right? I'm an expert grower and a marketer. I make people love my stuff, and I grow some really dope cannabis. But you know, Plantivia was the neighborhood. They had this expertise of bringing people together and doing events and doing all of these things, and I didn't have that, right? So it makes sense for us to form a relationship so that one, my people that are in you know, Crohn's disease, post cancer treatments, lupus, autoimmune challenges, right? These are my folks. They're not coming out to find the newest places to convene where people like them who look like them can come and have a really good time. So
Mm-hmm.
we took from them, I'm using you guys as a really good example, but we took for you guys how to be the bridge, right? And then that kind of stood in the place of the capital that we did not have, to a certain degree. And if you get enough of that, you can do anything.
Thank you for that. I mean, I think that's a fantastic sort of like segue, and almost like drill down in on, you know, the information piece, right? Is in any business, you don't know what you don't know until you learn it, right? And many of us can look back at our, you know, younger selves 10 years or so when we started our businesses on what we would have taught ourselves then. This question is for anyone. Was there anyone that you could look to for mentorship in your industry, or did you have to figure out everything on your own?
Well, we actually, I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to add, were there any models for your business?
Yeah, we were fortunate to have a mentor, someone that was in the industry in 2012 when they legalized it in Colorado. So they had actually had their own grow and cultivation and sold it to one of the largest industries, green thumb industries. So they're kind of helping us walk us through the process, and it's been very, very helpful. But before we did that, before we're kind of on this journey, we started with, you know, obviously we're starting with CBD and understanding that. But having a mentor through this whole process has been, you know, just priceless.
Anyone else been so blessed to have a mentor throughout their process?
Well, do you have a
it's not.
mentor?
I know. It's hard. It's hard.
You know what? I want to add to, Zay, like
Go ahead.
with the commission, and I know it's government, but I really think that New Jersey has a really good formula, and they're trying every little thing they're doing to help people that are not business savvy to really navigate this, right? So first off, like if you wanted to, you know, apply for a license, they have a 10-step, you know, thing you can actually print up on the commission website that gives you things so that you can prepare for the application. And the first thing first is, you know, knowing the law in your state and in your local city or impact zone. I went to a mixer, and a few people there did not even know that, even though it's an impact zone, like for instance, I think it was like Patterson, and I think they opted out for now, but I guess they were under the impression that all impact zones are you know are allowing for recreational cannabis, which they're not at the moment. I think it was like 30% of municipalities in the state of New Jersey actually opted into it last August. So taking this information from the commission that they give you, the second thing is developing a business plan, and they actually have resources on the website to help people that are not, like I said, business savvy, to help them navigate it. So those are some really great, helpful resources to you, and it's accessible, you know. And also a place like Plantivia where they can you know, refer people that are interested in getting into the cannabis industry, refer them to some other business owner to help them. So we can kind of help each other and be each other's mentor in some sense.
I must just say, bless you all. As a I guess you could say, traditional creative entrepreneur who just wants to consult the cannabis entrepreneurs. I so much appreciate you all by being frontliners. I will I'll keep my own problems with running the business that I'm running currently, and just look to consult you all. But I think this next question is
we're consultants now. I didn't want to put anybody in the spot. I was just just kind of putting it out there.
No. I totally feel you, and I'm like, oof, I'm just starting to sweat all over again.
Yes, I am busy.
Because with the cannabis space, as I said maybe in my earlier point, it's a space that I'm obviously very, very interested in. Listening to all the process you just gave us in a second, I'm like, I'm just a patient. I'm waiting for the laws. I'm waiting for the 21st. And I think even when I was considering my positioning or gallery retail's positioning in the space, I knew that I didn't want to be very close to the plant. And then, how does the services that gallery retail provide potentially aid, businesses like yourselves, right? And this is not sort of a pitch, but I know that I didn't want to be as close to the plant as, some folks want to be, right? So I think, so to ask my question, how did you determine which cannabis product you wanted to create?
I can
And
answer this. I don't have a cannabis product. I have a service.
Spot on.
So to be completely honest, I just ended up in this industry. I have no deep connection from like the plant. I literally just started smoking when I was 28 in 2017. Completely dry the entire time. Until, like I said, I lost my goddamn mind and I needed some CBD. I ain't like my boyfriend at the time. I didn't like his weed, man. So I just decided to get my medical card in Maryland, and that's when it kind of started. But because I was consuming CBD, I'd been laid off near like the end of 2017, and I wanted to get in the freelance, but I was like trying to get in the freelance right, and I couldn't figure out a niche. So this group I was in, this black freelance group, which is literally what it's called, the woman who was running it was like, "Oh, why don't you get in the CBD industry?" And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." And that's how I ended up here. But because like I'm good at writing, because I was like, "Oh, I can write in college, so I could write blog posts." But then I realized I don't like this sugar honey iced tea as much as I thought I did, or not to do it as much for like so many different clients. So then it broadened into me developing strategy skills, building out into content marketing, developing those skills. And then I then reached another impasse of trying to align with what I needed and what I wanted to commit to 10 years for the rest of my life. And it's just, well, I want to be a dope illustrator. I want to make art, and the art in this industry ain't really popping like that. So I think I can make a need. Yeah. So that's when I pretty much over the past couple months developed my illustration services, especially with helping with developing product labels or designing apparel, or even developing murals, especially with the cannabis lounges developing nationwide. That's where, and I've just been, as I bring it up online and in different networking spaces, there's an interest and there's a need for it. And to me, it's how can you consume cannabis and have whack visuals? Like, how much are you smoking that all these visuals are generic, or especially when it comes to stock photos, I keep seeing the same black lady in a green tank top, and I know what you're talking about. I keep seeing this same stock photo everywhere. And to me, there's just filling in that need of representation, and just like as adults to feel visceral wonder and a little bit of escapism to not just from the plant, but just in general. We live in a world that kind of dulls us out from beauty and enjoying things.
So Ashley, can you kind of pick up and kind of maybe address, because I feel like we have almost a kindred. I'm not, as nice on my Instagrams with my advocacy, but what would you say helped you decide to look outside of the retail and product side in the industry?
Well, for one, I would say, well, first of all, in New Jersey, when the legalization first started, there were a few diagnoses that were not originally included. So the first thing that I would say is I have anxiety. So when I found out that you were able to get a medical card for having anxiety and that cannabis is a treatment for that, that was something that I connected deeply with. And honestly, since using cannabis, my anxiety has like disappeared pretty much. So that is something that is worth sharing. And there are so many people that connect with me on my personal social media that just tell me about all of their issues, all the things that they've experienced, all the traumas that they've experienced that cannabis has helped them kind of come along from. So I would say, especially like even from a social media perspective, there was something I was going to say early on about just the challenges is one that social media isn't really sometimes cannabis friendly. And then it's also not necessarily streamlined where it's like it's a one fit all solution, because where some accounts may get shut down for featuring cannabis, there's other accounts that will never get shut down for featuring cannabis. My account is one of them. I have not had that yet in the last probably year or two. Since I've been creating cannabis content, I haven't had any warnings, anything at all. But there are also, on the other side of that, from a bigger perspective, there are many people who may, let's just say, Canna Yoga, for example, like instructors or other people that might have a marketing or branding company that stray away from it because they feel like, okay, well, I don't want my account to get shut down, and that's the reason why I will not talk about this. I will not do advocacy online, because they have this giant fear that they are going to lose their account and lose their following behind it. But from a medical perspective in general, also on the other side of things, from a social worker perspective, cannabis is they're using it as a medicine now. So the simple fact that you're using something as a medicine and that you can't necessarily talk about it on social media without feeling like you could possibly maybe lose your account or be flagged or be listed, and people can't find your account. I think that's a problem in itself. But that is why it is also important to do that advocacy piece, that educational piece, because without that education or that advocacy, people will have that fear.
Yeah.
Like people don't have a problem sharing anything from the government that says, okay, cannabis legalized in this state or a new dispensary has opened. So they will talk about it from a organizational point of view, but they won't talk about it from a personal use or from a medical point of view.
I'm smirking when you said that, because I think that definitely the advocacy starts at home. And as a patient, I definitely have had to explain to my family or give them the analogy. Essentially, I was like, "Oh, when you gonna stop?" I'm like, "If I had a heart murmur and I had to have heart medicine, would you tell me to stop that one day if that's the medicine that's prescribed to me?" So I think we definitely need to tweak and do some shifts in still, right, with the stigma and education of it. And I think, once again, because you touched on so many things when it comes to marketing the business, especially modern tools, which tend to be cheaper than, big billboards and ads. Uh, what should or what do cannabis companies look for when it comes to cannabis influencers? I've taken some photos and videos where, the main thing to kind of avoid is people looking too comfortable and sleepy when you're taking photos and whatnot. What are people looking for if you don't have problems and some other people do?
So one thing that I've noticed is that I would definitely say one of the biggest things I've noticed is, for example, there are some accounts who actually, I think I'm trying to remember if it was Weed Maps specifically, because I feel like it was, but I think at some point their account had gotten deactivated. And then they created another account that used broccoli in the place of weed. And they created this whole campaign about broccoli to say that, well, how come we can use all these other items to discuss it, but we can't actually use actual photos of cannabis with a public account anyway. A lot of accounts personally go private just to kind of hide it or hand select the people that can view it. But one thing I would definitely say is figuring out how to be creative about it. One thing that I've gotten very comfortable with is using different items that might be considered, in a sense, double as home decor. Because then it's kind of like a distraction where you can't really tell what's what. And I try to stay away from flour, but interestingly enough, even with CBD, I feel like they don't give you a hard time necessarily with CBD, but they will give you a hard time with cannabis alone.
So, from a social media perspective, I'm a marketing consultant working primarily in social media. So there are things that you have to be mindful of in terms of claims. So if you do something and you're saying, okay, it can reduce your anxiety and all of those kinds of things, then it's being labeled as a drug. So the fact that it's cannabis is secondary to the claim that you're making that it's going to cure something, because then you go into the space of trying to market like a drug company. And even drug companies, if you look at their accounts, you can see how they market. Another popular thing is alcohol. So you notice you'll see someone making a cocktail on in movies, anything on primetime television, but you'll never see them actually drinking it. So they'll cheers. So you check out those Hennessy commercials. They'll cheers. They'll do all those kinds of things, but they won't drink it. And this is years. This is decades of ads in that kind of way. So it really is in terms of the claims that you're making. What I found in the claims that you're making, if it's coming across like a drug that's curative of something, then you can't do that. If you're showing what they call irresponsible consumption, then that's another thing that you can't do. Sometimes it's just in the word, because I don't use cannabis. I don't use marijuana, like smoking. I use hemp, and in the labeling, the scientific name, I have to change it so that it doesn't pop up on the site. So if you're going on Facebook, Instagram, it's really just like disguising the word. So I can say it on my website, but I can't say it in the way that it's going to pull into Facebook, into Instagram. So, and that's primarily because it's unregulated by the federal government. So it's like, it's really, really tricky.
Got it.
Yeah, and that
And
ties
Christine, I'm
back into
actually
that
go.
part
No,
that
go
you
ahead,
asked.
Lorenzo.
We were talking about someone's merchant services earlier, and the workings of that merchant services. We had ended up getting shut down for about 90 days with zero merchant services, and we went through this training exercise of finding the appropriate merchant services. The immediate knee jerk reaction was someone told us to go get a bank account outside the United States. You know, send the money there, then send the money back, and then you got clean money, which is we all know what that is. And right, so but to what Ms. Carr is talking about there is the language that you're using. So we're on a platform right now, and they didn't want us to be on this platform. We had been kicked off of Shopify. We had been kicked off of Square. PayPal had suspended us. Stripe didn't even give us a shot. Right. So all of these different things, and it taught us that it was really the language. The FDA says that, and we use Food and Drug Administration language for a lot of the stuff that we do because they've already vetted it, right? This is the guiding language when it comes to cosmetics and drugs. Other food that is ingestible, generally regarded as safe. But anyway, I'm saying that to say you can say what you're saying to your ideal customer without saying the word, right? Um, and that's kind of what they're asking, for you to not say marijuana, for you to not say that it is going to treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any sort of disease. And to we had a store up here in Charlotte got shut down for the same thing. Same thing. Whole store shut down. The literal FBI came in to remove their register. So they're very serious about that.
Um, okay. So I wanted to circle back to Christine for a minute because you have basically a product where you're in the industry where there isn't a lot of people of color, there isn't a lot of Black women, and then we're compounding that with the cannabis industry where there isn't the greatest representation. What is some advice for someone, especially people of color, who want to enter the industry? And I guess in your case, it'll be beauty as well as cannabis.
For me, I really love skincare and beauty. That that's my, I'd say, my first love. Well, marketing is my first love, and then that would be my second. Um, and I was just really, really passionate about it. I had no funding. I barely had savings. I'm currently just like maxed out all of my cards to kind of like get this going. And it's really just to start where you are, you know. If you have the opportunity to get funding, of course, get funding. But if you don't, start where you are and look at people around you who started in a similar way. Look at people who started with funding, and just try to figure it out. I didn't have anyone to ask because I don't work for free. And so it was hard for me, and it's always been hard for me to ask people to work for free. So I met with a couple of people, and I'm like, okay, so I've got this $500 and I need some advice real quick. Like, here, give me some touch points, give me some things to not miss. I consulted a lawyer. I did pay for a lawyer right up front. I trademarked all of my names and everything. So just literally just start where you are. If you can get funding, get it. If you can't, just start where you are. As I said, it was the middle of the pandemic. I was getting unemployment, and rather than like, save for a rainy day like a sane person would, I started a whole business. I'm literally on this computer right now doing my taxes. Okay. So I'm finishing up my income statement and like going through looking at all the money I spent that I did not have. So it really is just believing yourself and literally just start wherever you are.
Thank you for that. And we got, I think, time for one more question, and I think we can get to some questions potentially from the chat. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep rolling, but I'm gonna sort of combine a couple questions into one because I think this would be one a thing that's helpful for you all, as well as a way in which we can sort of get people thinking, right? So considering your business, we've talked about, or at least touched on, each of our businesses here. So thinking about your business, what is a job, occupation, or avenues, right? People of color should think about or can use to access the cannabis industry. But I think it'd be really cool if this were something, a service or a thing that would help your business, right? So, for example, Gallery Retail, full line creative service company. My side, I would love for there to just be more Black and Brown people in the space so that I can consult them, help them with growing their business, help them with an income statement, a business plan, right? So I think that would be one thing from my side. Um, and maybe I'll give you like a proper original one at the end. But anyone sort of want to take a first stab at the question?
Sure. I'll take a stab at it. So, yeah, I mean, as far as like those like ancillary businesses and stuff like that, I mean, not everybody wants to touch the plant, right? Not everyone wants to have a retail store. But there are some things that have kind of like come up, like, expanding the edible line. Because right now in almost the country, like what's kind of like okay are like edibles like gummies, maybe some cookies, maybe some brownies here and there. But I was on a call with the commission, this was about a month ago, and they were talking about, they're having a baseline talk about what's kind of like for safety, like, because you have a lot of consumers that will purchase the flour and go home and make their own brownies. You can't prevent people from doing that, right? And I think what New Jersey's trying to do is trying to see what that would look like, what that industry would look like, and safely do it, because you have these kitchen cooks, and then they pour the whole eighth into a 9x9, and all of a sudden one brownie is like 100 milligrams and somebody pass out. You just
Mhm.
be careful. So I think what New Jersey's doing, they're thinking forward about 3, 4, 5 years ahead. What are people going to be doing? And some of those businesses and some of those ancillary businesses are like expanding on edibles. There's also delivery services. The RFA for delivery service has not come out as of yet for Jersey, but it will come out. So you can think about those types of things. Accounting, professional services. There's a lot of different things that you don't have to touch the plant, you don't have to sell to consumers. But if you're good at certain things, yeah, it can even be construction. You know, if you're in a grow, you have to have a specific type of lighting and different like racks and things. You have to have a lot of things, and if you find a construction a contractor that's well versed in how to put a 75 square foot grow up, you know, in a warehouse in Newark, I mean, you kind of create your own niche. So those are some of the things that I think would you know benefit the industry. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Shay.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
I
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead,
Oh
because I
no.
don't get in there. Go ahead. You go, ladies first.
So right now, because I'm tangentially in the industry, I'm thinking of ways to get deeper in it, by way of incorporating CBD into skincare products. Now, it's hard for me to, with everything else that I'm doing on my own, figure that out. I want to. So, someone like me, I'd be looking for someone who's adept at formulating with CBD and skincare. So, just as I forgot her name, she's down there. She's got the
Shay?
curly blondish hair, Shay. Just to find people that are able to do those things. So it's really just like peripherally, just work with CBD in a I want to say holistic way. So you'll know how to incorporate it in topicals. You'll know how to incorporate it in food. So finding those people. So maybe it's a directory, someone creating a directory of people that are in the industry that are able to help in various ways. So that's
Okay.
something that would be helpful for me. I mean, I know like the lady who lost her mind a couple times. I'm trying to see the
I'm
name,
like,
but
that's
it's
all
so
of us,
hard.
but
I can't see.
I'm like, 2017. Oh
um,
man.
yeah, and creating art, just having a directory of those kinds of people that can consult on the various pieces, so that when we're wanting to grow, we don't have to go learn a whole different area. We can just say, oh hey, I need help with this. Can you help? That kind of vibe. So finding a service like that would be helpful for someone like me.
Awesome. I'm hearing a directory, a dietitian, a nutritionist, construction,
A
um,
chemist.
a chemist, a botanist.
Right.
Uh, Ashley, Elena, Lorenzo, you want to give us one?
Well, I would
I
say for
did.
the well, the,
Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Ashley.
no,
Sorry.
you're
Come on,
already
Lorenzo, you
late.
gotta wait.
You was
Lorenzo,
already
you gotta
late.
wait.
All right. For our company, we had some I forget what the term the governor was using, but some prison associated
Yeah, I
folks
like that
that
term.
we come in and help us in the grow house, right? So just some hands-on manual labor. Before we arrived at needing this distribution, we always could use distribution. Before we did this, though, I'm a member of the Black Caucus here, the political Black Caucus here of Charlotte. When I came here, I got to be a part of the Black Chamber of Commerce, and through all of that, what I learned is that I'm trying my thing with my company is we had to identify who we are. We're a tier one supplier. We grow the product, we produce the oil, and we formulate products. We have a history of award-winning formulation. One is in skincare, as a matter of fact. We've got a sheet mask, a CBD sheet mask that I think Plantivia has up there. But won awards, right? But what I'm trying to get to is we just want to get the product in the hands of the experts. I don't care if you're making envelopes to ship it in, if you're making soaps that's going to help my people with psoriasis, after a lupus flare up. Like, I want to get my product into your hand because I know it's clean. We quality check it along the way. And it's top notch, and it's doing all sorts of tumor shrinking and all sorts of stuff out there in our community anecdotally. But we want to get it into the hands of the experts. So if you bake, if you are a deliverer, if you are making soaps, if you are cooking, right? got some culinary experts around the way. I love that Shay thing that you guys are pushing the envelope on edibles. Like, let's stop holding it in that cannabis box and allow it to be the full on widget, and allow those other support services to step in. You know, no different than selling a cell phone, right? The same level of business services that it takes to get your Apple phone or Android into your hand are the same level of services that we're going to need to get this product in people's hands too, and maintain that quality.
Thank you for that. Elena, Ashley?
So I wanted to say in reference to the directory, if any of you are familiar with Cannaclusive or Cannaclusive.com, I don't know if they're keeping it active, but they do have like a nationwide directory. So I don't know if you guys are just talking about just like a New Jersey specific directory. But they have like a very expansive national directory as far as, you know, I guess ideally connecting with Black creators and Black business owners in the industry, but I guess it could be across the full spectrum. But
thank you.
I guess I forgot what the question was.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Go ahead.
I wanted to add, you know, since we're in the CBD business, ABS, always be selling, right? So we actually have facial mask, which has 10 milligrams of CBD in it. So you can actually go on our website and see those, but they're very, very good. I actually used one the other day. Very cool and calming. It has chamomile in it. I think it has licorice or something in it to like firm the skin. It's really a good mask. But we wanted to get the mask because that's one of the growing segments within the cannabis industry are beauty products. Are those you know, oils and salves are definitely useful. I had some bruises and, you know, during the pandemic because the gyms were closed and I had to go out bike riding, and I found out I forgot how to ride a bike and I kept falling. So I would use a salve. But those skincare products are it's just a growing segment. I just want to let Christine know that. So
oh no, I know. I just, you know, I've used dozens of products. It's just, you know, getting it into my own line. That is the challenge. Like, you know, I'm someone that I start from science. And so I don't just want to like, oh, this now has CBD. I need to understand like how much is in each pump, how much you're absorbing in your skin, like what that's going to look like, how that breaks down over time, that kind of thing. And talking about CBD, so I can't ingest it, right? Because I got some from Plantivia, and I came home and I was very excited because I have really bad insomnia. And I'd done melatonin. I'm like, okay, I'm excited about these CBD gummies. And I woke up in the morning and I'm like, is my apartment on fire? Because it was so hazy. My eyes were swollen. I could not see. So when I researched, I found out that CBD for some people, it lowers the pressure in the eye, and it causes like you get this crusting over of the eyes, gets swollen. So it really looked like I was fighting in my sleep. And so I know I can't ingest it, but how much can I put on my skin? You know what I mean? Like, so I want to know, like, if I'm going to be putting it on my skin, knowing what it did when I ingested it, what are the things that can happen, not just with me, but with other people. So I want to make sure that I understand that, and the person who's going to help me to formulate knows the answers to those questions as well, because I don't want to really put something out there that's unsafe.
Right.
And I'm gonna add for everybody, right? Testers. I'm sure there's gonna be a long line of testers of all the different pieces, right? I have a niece that was living with me through the pandemic. She's out at graduate school. She's had more job opportunities within cannabis dispensaries, the cannabis businesses, more than probably I've had as an adult. So the opportunities are out there. And I'm fascinated at how quickly she was able to do this. But Ashley, Elaine, do you have something to add on that last question before we close up?
I'll jump on this part real quick because I feel like the one thing, and it kind of doubles back to what I mentioned before, but the education part is very important on numerous levels because of the simple fact that for some who keep up with the news about what's going on with just legislation in different states, legalization across the United States, even as well as when it comes to, I guess we were having a discussion as far as marketing is concerned when it comes to claims. I guarantee you within this next year, if you watch the news and pay very close attention to it, I'm one person that I do own stock and I keep up with different things that are going on with certain different companies. But Pfizer, for example, is one of the pharmaceutical companies that is actually working on getting their medical marijuana for their company out specifically for eating disorders. So in a sense, like is all this conversation that we're having and all this fear that is in many Black communities about using cannabis and what that's going to look like. Once the pharmaceutical companies rush in, it's going to be a complete different game. And they're in the process of all of that stuff because it takes time. As Christine was mentioning before about formulations and things, they want to make sure everything is safe. But in all honesty, I personally would not necessarily trust, I guess, in a sense, maybe moving into a space where pharmaceuticals are telling us, okay, well, here's this plant that we told you not to use, and now we're telling you buy it from us.
Right. I mean, and I feel like if you're in that conspiracy theory space, the idea is that, well, it's not that they don't know that you can use it. They just want to make sure that they've spent the requisite amount of time to prove that it's safe so that once they enter the market, they're rushing to billions of dollars in hand over fist cash, right? Versus the little guy who they just came in and trampled after years and years of telling them not to do it. So it's really I feel like the industry is really waiting for big pharma to do something meaningful, and then it will be too late for the little guy.
Christine, do you have a science background?
No, I don't, but I do read a lot of skincare journals and that kind of thing. So no. Why do you
No, I just asked because you said conspiracy theory.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's the 2 cents that I have from my chemistry background on it. I did see that Pfizer just spent that $6.7 billion to acquire that company to get into this cannabis game, right?
Right.
What I also pay attention to is the synthetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing inside of your body is synthetic when you're born. Will we all agree?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right.
Now, so imagine that if you ate one of those little beanbag balls that comes inside of your beanbag of plastic. You ever busted a beanbag open? You see all of that stuff. Imagine if you eat one of those every single day of your life. How many days of your life do you think you're actually going to get? Right? It's a rhetorical question. It doesn't matter. You're going to die earlier than what your natural life is expectancy is supposed to be, right? So anytime anybody is selling you anything synthetic, and I will die on this hill, anytime anybody is selling you anything synthetic, they're selling you a gap of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we do as scientists, before we give you anything, we're going to test it on stuff with similar organs. We're going to test it on stuff with similar reactions. And then we're going to get it down to the micron that it takes, that I can give it to you for 40 years straight before you notice the cancer, before you notice your kidneys failing, before you notice the diabetes hitting your community, before you notice all of these things we didn't have 20 years ago because the onset we hadn't hit that precipice yet. So anytime anybody is selling you anything synthetic, question it. And I'll get off of my soapbox there.
And I appreciate that. I know we are nearing the end of our time. I don't know if Rashad will be joining us to give us an overview of HempFest. But as Shay was saying, I'll always be selling. I am definitely looking forward to fellow creatives to work with awesome talents like yourselves, right? I'm pretty sure 90% of you will need product photography. I'm in an awesome studio now, Become Studios, where I would definitely love to collaborate with some of you all. So I think on my side of the in the space and creative side, definitely looking for those photographers, videographers, so that we can create what you say, some not whack content, um, and additional stock for footage and content. And I do. Oh, I think we do have Rashad jumping on. So until he jumps on, I think we can take at least one question from the audience in lieu of him joining us and taking us and wrapping us up. We have a question for Elena. Are there elements of your illustrations that are geared towards breaking the negative stigmas of cannabis?
Honestly, no. I don't think about that.
Right? Yeah, no, no, just don't
I
do
love
it.
I
it. I
mean,
love it.
I guess it's the negative. I guess my overall perspective on thing is this entire country, most of the world is delusional and it's all BS anyway. So I care about making what's real and maybe infusing some degree of, escapism or surrealism. Like my company's tagline is I forge timeless, immersive, creative that sells. And I guess, yeah, at the end of the day, like the negative stereotype is just like, it's all lies. So to me, it doesn't exist because it's already delusion.
I
So
love that answer, and I
unless
feel like you're
the brand
combating
I'm working with
stigmas with
saying
that
something
answer.
out of pocket, I try to cater to reality. So that little bit of reality and surrealism there.
And with that, I yield the rest of my time. Rashad, thank you for this opportunity, and the rest of the Plant TV team, and you awesome folks. I definitely look to connect with you all as soon as we're able, and then hopefully we can connect. I'm Zay of Gallery Retail, so those that are joining at home, Rashad, take us away.
Good evening. Good evening. All I can say is wow. Now, I would say to the folks on the call, I actually have the pleasure to work with all these different people in different ways. And when I tell you some of the best folks that I met doing what they are doing, and even for the conversation today, I really appreciate the candor and we probably have all talked individually about the struggle about being a black owned business in the cannabis space. It's already cannabis, and then you add all the other nuances that existed even before we want to be in the space. And that was one thing that we said at Plantivia just to the cannabis world, is that we just don't want to be a consumer. We want to be owners. We want to own our companies. We want to be able to provide healthy products for our community, and it's our right to do it. And that's what we believe in here at Plantivia Wellness. And that's why we had this event today, to really share the information. And if you know anything about, if you've ever been to our store, one thing we have is some information. We have a whole bunch of stuff and information for sure. Um, Again, I want to thank our panel. I want to thank Zay, Ashley, Lorenzo, Elena, Christine, and Shay. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Also, really quickly, people, it's 420 this week. It's in 2 days. And at Plantivia, because we love the community so much, we're doing something every day. Today, we actually had this panel today to share with the community. Tomorrow, we actually have a senior breakfast. Your parents been asking you about CBD, bring them to the store tomorrow. Your grandma been asking you about CBD, bring it to the store tomorrow. If you are a grandmother and you have questions about CBD or grandfather, come to the store tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at 45 Palsy Street. Also on Wednesday, which is the big day, we're going to start early in the morning. We got Santiva and Sunrise for our folks that like to get up early. Everybody knows me. I'm not a morning person, so I will not be there, but I will be so happy where everyone is there. And also on 420, we're having an amazing game night. We've had some awesome sponsors. You think you can play spades? You think you got Uno on lock? How about those dominoes? Let's see your skills. Come out Wednesday evening. And then on Thursday, we're back to the wellness. We have two more yoga sessions. Excuse me, we have one more yoga session and two paint and puffs on Thursday. And also on Friday is our big canna crawl. We believe that cannabis is a catalyst for economic development. So we want to use our platform to help other people businesses grow their business as well. So we'll be activating Halsey Street actually all day on Friday with a canna crawl. And all this leads up until Saturday is our big day party brunch is going down. If anybody doesn't know me, brunch is my thing. So we are brunching all day Saturday. It's like one of those long brunches, and it'll be infused, of course. So please come out, enjoy us. There are lots of free events. There's also lots of events that require tickets, but you can check out all this information because we know it's a lot, but we have it all at newarkhempfest.com. Again, that's newarkhempfest.com. Thank you again, everybody, for your time this evening. We look forward to doing big things in the hemp and cannabis world here in Newark, New Jersey, and beyond. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank
Take
you
care, everyone.
so
Yes,
much.
good night.
Bye.
All right, Connor.
Y'all so dope. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
We'll catch up.
Bye.
We love y'all.